the Great Sphinx of the Giza Plateau, and Egypt's connection with the lost continent of Atlantis and ancient Atlantean technology. Well, we know that Thoth the Atlantean, in the Emerald tablets that he wrote, describes that he built the Giza pyramids and that he also had a spaceship which he carefully hid under a sphinx in Egypt, in the plateau of pyramids. Now, did he build other plateaus of pyramids in Egypt? We don't know. And this is a drawing of the era of the Sphinx around the time of Napoleon Bonaparte's visit to this area. This is a 19th century image of it. And this is what ancient architects recently gave us as an image of a nearby Sphinx, a second Sphinx, as you can see, still has erosion. It even has doors on the sides going in to areas, underground chambers, and you can see the head is totally eroded. And the weather erosion, maybe that's why the Great Sphinx of Egypt that we know that was found 4,000 years ago, and is now, of course, uncovered from the sand that was surrounding it, probably has had its head reconstructed. A much smaller head with a different type of stone, which doesn't have that much erosion, as we can see that the body has. So, was this Atlantean technology? Well, we know from the Emerald tablets that we have, and you will find them on my playlist of videos on Emerald tablets, that it's much older. And also the orientation of the Sphinx shows that it was facing a constellation that was over the area of Giza 10,500 BC. That's just about 12,500 years ago. And let's remember what happened about 12,500 years ago, 12,800 years ago, was a comet impact, the Younger Dryas and the Ice Age. Now, with the comet impact, comets, of course, are able to impact Earth and melt the surrounding geology, the rocks, also induce earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. And all this sand could have been coming out of some kind of a volcanic eruption. Also, of course, inducing floods. And what caused all this erosion on the body of the Sphinx? Now, Egypt is one of the most enigmatic and mysterious monuments. This Giza Plateau, and especially the Sphinx, the Great Sphinx of Egypt. And it has created a very big issue among those who are interested in Egyptology, the professionals and amateurs alike. It has mysteries that are still not solved. It's a majestic figure, and for centuries has seen the sun rising, waking man's deepest curiosity when there's questions that are not yet answered. Who built this Sphinx? And who found it there? We found it 4,000 years ago, but obviously it's much older than that. The ancient Egyptians said they found it there. And why is this still an issue? Simply because there's no inscription that recognizes showing the builder of it, while Egyptologists rely only on one theory, their own theory, without considering other information and details, as it's claimed that they existed from their other researchers. Between 1816 and 1818, Giovanni Battista Caviglia, an Italian explorer and archaeologist, excavated the Sphinx and the temples around the Sphinx, and the proximity to the Great Pyramid of Khufu, or Khafre. It was quickly linked to the mysterious Sphinx in the form of its pharaoh of the 4th dynasty, to the point of confirming that the face of the sculpture is actually that of Pharaoh Khufu, or Khafre, or whatever, Khafre, Khufu. And from that day until today, the idea that the Sphinx belonged to the area of Pharaoh Khufu or Khafre remained unchanged, and academic Egyptology did not want to propose other theories than these. In other words, it's based on a hypothesis and theory based on random distances between the monuments of the Sphinx with the pyramids. The Sphinx was built on out of a single piece of natural stone, 57 meters, that's about 180 feet long, and about 20 meters high, that's about 60 feet high. And as we already mentioned, there's no information about its origin, who built it and why this orientation towards that constellation that we had 10,500 BC. The only written reference to the Sphinx in antiquity is that of Greek historian and geographer Herodotus, who, however, does not mention that the pharaohs of the fourth dynasty of Cheops, Hephren, and Mykerino were the builders of the Sphinx. There is therefore no written evidence of its creators, who they were. Were they Egyptian? Were they others? On the contrary, there are indications that the Sphinx was created long before the pyramids, and passing through the Great Pyramid of Giza area, French archaeologist Auguste Mariette found a column known as the Census Stela. The ancient stela inscription describes that the pyramid and the Sphinx were already there before the reign of Pharaoh Cheops or Khufu, although this is a controversial finding according to most modern archaeologists. So consequently, this finding was never taken seriously by Egyptian historians, as it would mean that the history we have been told for a long time lacks solid foundations, because it shows that the Sphinx preceded the ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Of course, as we know even from the Emerald Tablets, Thoth the Atlantean, who wrote them, says that he was one of the first deities of ancient Egypt, that other Atlanteans escaped Atlantis' demise, sinking, and went to other areas of the world, and the first thing they did was build pyramids. And they had this advanced technology and philosophy of life. Of course, Atlantis, we know, and even as Thoth tells us, was very decadent, corrupt, and immoral, very dangerous. They had very advanced technology, even interdimensional technology, zipping in and out of frequencies, hyper speed, and everything you can imagine. And they were abusing that. They were even, of course, delving in magic, black magic, and demonology. So you can imagine what was going on. Now, going back to this, there are various indications that could be defended on this side, one side or another, but most important indication comes from the very recent past. In the early 1990s, John Anthony West began questioning the dating of the mysterious Sphinx, Great Sphinx of the Giza Plateau. He analyzed traces of erosion found on the surface of the monument and came to the conclusion that it did not match the official estimates. With collaboration of the geoscientists Thomas Dobecki and geologist Robert Scotch of the University of Boston, they conducted a detailed analysis of the limestone of the Sphinx, and they concluded that erosion was due to rain, continuous torrential rains. And how could that be? When was it able to have this type of weather pattern in Egypt? In the middle of the Sahara Desert, which Sahara is, of course, a desert today. No signs of lakes or vegetation whatsoever. The answer, as we understand it, is the key to dating this giant statue, the Sphinx, because it shows that such rain should have occurred before the change in climate, turning the Sahara into a desert. Before the desert existed, that is, at least 13,000 years ago, according to scientific calculations. So this Sphinx was before 13,000 years ago. This chronology could easily be linked to the supposed existence of Atlantis, but this does not necessarily mean that it was built by the Atlanteans at the time, since Atlantis is officially considered a myth and nothing more. Well, according to what the Emerald Tablets state, Atlantis did exist. And we do have the Emerald Tablets. This is from DIdrastika. I've translated for you, and I'll leave a link below for you. Please leave your comments. Tell me what you think. This is definitely weather erosion. And a very interesting thing that we have is that they found nearby the second Sphinx. They knew that there would be a second Sphinx. There's always two Sphinxes, not just one. So As you can see, the second Sphinx also has a tremendous amount of weather erosion. This is it right here. And you can see that the head again is totally destroyed. So obviously this was, I don't know if it was rain or even underwater. Something very mysterious did take place there. Still unanswered questions, still tremendous mysteries. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.